and all of that sort from the judiciary. So on what grounds can the judiciary actually cancel election that perhaps makes Achonu so sure about that?
Yeah, apparently, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Electoral Acts govern the process of election in this country to the extent that even the grounds for election petitions, okay, are very extant in those provisions. It could be an issue of non-qualification of a candidate or an issue of non-compliance with the procedure, of course, even with the law before even the procedure. That is to say that the Constitution, for instance, provides for qualification of any person who wants to run election to fill any of the offices created in the Constitution, whether in the legislature or in the executive. That is the president or governor of a state, as the case may be. Of course, the vice president and the deputy governor run together with the president or the governor. Now, you could challenge an election on certain grounds, including the fact that a candidate that was returned as elected by the Independent National Electoral Commission wasn't qualified in the first instance. You could also bring a petition for on the ground that the election did not follow laid down provisions of the law or comply with certain guidelines and regulations for that election, or on the ground that there are so much of irregularity, substantial non-compliance with the conduct of elections, maybe some guidelines that have been provided basically for that election. And again, that the candidate that was returned did not score the majority of votes, because the Constitution, the law requires that you must have majority of votes cast, valid votes in that regard. So I really do not know what exactly the ground would be in the case of Achonu and then against the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodimma. But whatever it is, it certainly will be one of these grounds, because the law is also very, election matters are special matters, such that you will not go out of the grounds that the law has provided to be the grounds for challenging the election of anyone. So it definitely will be one of these grounds. So either whether it wasn't qualified for different reasons. It may not be qualified by reason of not being a citizen of Nigeria. It may not be qualified by reason of not being educated up to the minimum of school certificate. It may not be qualified by reason of not being up to the age that is required for that position. It may not be qualified by reason of not being sponsored by a political party, because those are the cardinal conditions to qualify any person to run election. Or it may not be qualified for reason of probably being a public officer, not resigning from that office within the threshold of the period that is required, depending on the position he was running. And then all that the election was shrouded with irregularities and malpractice in such a manner that is so magnificent, so substantial, that the election should not be seen to be credible to be able to return a person that will lead those the constituents or that group at all. So whichever it is, now the outcomes of proceedings in the election petition are also extant in the provisions of both the Constitution and the Electoral Act. So meaning that election matters are such that the outcomes are already even envisaged and known, depending on which of these grounds that the court would hold that exists. So it means that if a certain ground is established, that this is the outcome that's certainly going to be, that's to say, the judges of the tribunal would not hold otherwise. So there could be circumstances where election could be ordered to be rerun. Circumstances where at the end of the hearing, you'll find that, oh, the person that was declared to have secured the highest number of votes, majority of valid votes cast, may not even bail the person. There are circumstances that the tribunal would hold that the person that was next to that person declared should rather even be, depending on the prayer as well, should be declared as the winner. And again, very fundamental when it comes to legal matters. The courts don't answer prayers that you don't put before them. We say the courts are not Father Christmas. They will not give to you what you do not ask for. They do not go on the frolic of their own discovery, going on the wild chase in the wild sea like the ancient mariner. So it means that it will also depend on how you have presented your case and what prayers you have made.
Okay, so
say you ask, so look, I am the candidate that ought to have been returned because I secured the majority of the votes cast. Maybe you were not the one declared, but you must make that kind of prayer. such that if the court agrees with you that the ground you have brought before the court to examine is such that if established, and then that you convince the court that you secured majority of the votes, that's where you hear, I think it happened in Imo State, where you hear that people will like, the person that was elected was rather not the candidate, and then the courts brought another person. You won't understand how the legal matters actually
So
work.
you're saying that in cases where the election was not cancelled, right, in a case where there was no rerun conducted or ordered, it then means that, you know, the case is not strong enough to present grounds that would convince the courts enough about, you know, the irregularities of the election.
The allegations of the petitioner. Oh, yes. So in the first instance, it could mean like, of course, just like every other matter, you could actually approach the court seeking some prayers, some declarations of the court, because you're presenting some, if you like, some grievance, okay, that something wrong had happened against you that affects your interest. So if you're able to, the onus is on you to prove beyond the level of evidence that is
So
required.
you're saying that there hasn't been enough proof. I mean, we've seen
in certain circumstances. Meaning that all the matters that the petitioners didn't succeed, it means that in the consideration of those tribunals and the courts, they were not convinced that you proved beyond the point that you are required to be. If it is on preponderance of evidence, like every other matter, then it means that you haven't advanced the quantum or weight of credible evidence to convince the court to grant your prayer.
At what point would actually one consider, you know, an evidence or proof convincing enough? Because I mean, let's use the general elections, right?
Yes.
That had, you know, Peter Obi of LP, Atiku of PDP, and then Tinubu from the APC, all right? And INEC was sued, as well as the APC, right, by the LP and PDP, with different, you know, cases, different proof. We saw that lingered for quite a while, and there was an uproar all over the country, right, such that there was even a petition going around social media about the elections, you know, and all of that. So are you not trying to say that the elections were not annulled because there wasn't enough
because
proof?
The court, yeah, that's what the court, that's what it means. Now, let's get this. You know, when all of those were going on, and then there were diverse opinions, recall that everybody isn't a lawyer. Even amongst the lawyers, right? You could have a view, you could hold a view, and then the other colleague of yours could hold another view. But what is important is that there is just one clear fact. And then again, that the law is extant, and that every decision of the court is made and reached pursuant to...
Is it really so sure that the judiciary would annul the elections, or this is more like a challenge call, right, asking the judiciary to do what they ought to do because, you know, the case has been brought to court?
I think it will depend on the facts he has presented before the court and the evidence that he has averred and advanced before the court. And again, what grounds he has raised. And then even how it's been presented. You know, a lot of issues happened during the other the general elections and all of that. And even all of the other matters that were before the tribunals. Most of those cases, when we analyze of irregularity or probably abuse of process or some technical, if you like, you say it's technical, in the sense that they probably never complied with the provisions of the rules and the laws on how to present. So a lot of issues will determine the outcome of a matter. Sometimes it may not even get to the merit to really examine and review the evidence you have advanced, but probably that you never commence the action within the time that is required to be commenced, or you never commence the action by the means that it was required to be commenced. It could just be thrown out from the threshold, as in from the beginning of the matter.
All right, then, got your thoughts. The All Progressives Congress in the Northwest has activated its internal dispute resolution mechanism to resolve pending issues. The decision was reached during the inaugural meeting of APC Northwest stakeholders, which held at Yar Adua Hall, Murtala Square, Kaduna State. Members also agreed to chart the pathway to a more formidable zonal structure that would ensure victory for the party in future elections. The stakeholders emphasized the need for unity, collaboration, and political foresight to maintain the Northwest Zone's political dominance and ensure the region's continued development and progress. Barrister, internal dispute resolution mechanism. I don't think this is the first time that the APC is coming up with such a mechanism. And although the story, the news didn't really carry the what those mechanisms are, you know, they weren't exactly reviewed. But it is that they have, you know, come up with internal resolution mechanism, right? And then it also, we understand that basically a summary of it would be, you know, calling for unity, right, amongst party stakeholders, calling on everyone to be on ground, to be all hands on deck. Well, a lot more to say about it, but the fact remains that we don't exactly know what that resolution mechanism is. So, Barrister, what do you think? What would be your analysis on this report here from the APC activating an internal resolution mechanism? What should we be looking out for?
Excellent. The constitution of every political party, recall that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, upon establishing the Independent National Electoral Commission under Section 153, that commission is empowered to register political parties. Political parties are associations that pursue political objectives, particularly to contest elections or sponsor candidates contest elections and then to win elections and then fill elective positions. These are perhaps the only associations that, rather than being incorporated by the Corporate Affairs Commission, but are required by the Constitution to be registered with INEC. Now, upon that registration, you would register also the constitution of the political party. So all of the 18 or 19 political parties, 18 political parties are thereabout presently, have constitutions registered with INEC. Now, in those constitutions, you also would have dispute resolution mechanisms, or if you like, disciplinary measures, or even how to resolve disputes, either between and amongst members or between members and the political party. That's what you would see as internal. Internal in the sense that it's not is not one of the mechanisms that would have got to the third party, that is the court, the judiciary. Okay. Now, usually every matter that has come to the court is seen as adopting one of the mechanisms for dispute resolution. And let me, at that point, I even say what could therefore probably suggest alternative dispute resolution. Now, generally, it does appear that majority of matters are resolved, or disputes are resolved by way of litigation, because that's a mechanism. Litigation is just one of the mechanisms for resolving dispute. There are a lot of other mechanisms or procedures, if you like, or methods of resolving disputes. So, but once you approach the court, it is that mechanism, that method, litigation. So what this means is that the political party is actually looking how to look inwards and adopt other mechanisms rather than the litigation, rather than going to court. Okay. So probably getting their members to have their agitations or their grievances, okay, resolved internally by some of them. And what could be these other mechanisms? It could be negotiation, it could be mediation, it could be arbitration, but of course arbitration is more in commercial transactions, business more or less. So I believe that the political parties are looking at where they will set up committees for mediation and perhaps negotiation. Those are dispute resolution mechanisms, and then fall in the basket of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, in the sense that, how are they alternative? After all, originally they are also one of those mechanisms for resolving dispute. But compared with litigation, which is the almost conventional method, that you say is alternative dispute resolution mechanism. So I think the party is looking at, rather than encouraging their members to go to court, and you have a floodgate of litigations here and there, that, look, as far as they are not election matters, that's another thing. Because for election matters, you have no choice as a political party to choose which of the mechanisms. It's got just to be by petition to the tribunals, and that's the court. So it means that when it comes to election matters, challenging the outcome of any election or the procedure of conducting any election, right, especially conducted by INEC, the only mechanism, it is not a choice of the party or the candidate. The only mechanism is litigation, because you would be required to file a petition before the tribunal. So I believe that in this regard, it will be differences or disagreements or agitations between and amongst the members of the political party. Then the party is saying, come, let's adopt a mechanism that will probably give us opportunity to, yes, express our grievances, but not in court. Let's negotiate. let's have some third party mediating between the two disputants. So you could find it where the political party may form a committee, all right, a reconciliatory committee, or a team of mediators or a team of negotiators to get disagreeing parties and then those decisions could be binding amongst the disputants or even members of the party and could be enforceable at that level of the party. But where the question is, what if a party member is dissatisfied with the outcome of a mediation or a negotiation or even reconciliation? Can the party approach the court? Of course, yes. You can still approach the court because you have a right. If you think that your right is being infringed, even if you submitted to the internal party arrangement for a mediation, negotiation, or reconciliation, if you're not satisfied, or if you perceive that you were not given fair hearing, or you perceive that the outcome was perverse, you perceive that the committee was partial, you still can challenge and then return to litigation where you go to court to seek redress.
All right then. So how effective do you think this will be?
It's effective, like I said, it's effective. It's binding amongst members within the political party. That's why the political party constitutions also have disciplinary measures. They can actually say, look, you explore the internal disciplinary procedures first, and then ensure that you comply, and then you are bound by the outcomes of those decisions.
All right then.
The political party could decide to expel you or suspend you, or that's the way they can enforce those internal resolution mechanisms.
All right, Barrister, got your thoughts. In a chat with journalists over the weekend, an All Progressives Congress chieftain from Kogi State, Atiku Abubakar Isa, said the embattled national chairman of Abdullahi Umar Ganduje possesses the requisite leadership qualities and demeanor to continue to steer the affairs of the party. He said history has shown us that sentiment never breeds the best leaders. As a party man from the north-central axis of our country, my interest is a flourishing APC with a leadership that has the capacity to drive our party to greatness. Umar Ganduje possesses the credentials to do that, Isa noted. Speaking further, he insisted that Ganduje's unalloyed loyalty to President Bola Tinubu and his unmatched ability to entrench peace and unity within the party stand him out as the best for the job. He said, and I quote, Ganduje is a team player and no party survives under a dictator chairman, but every party with a leader that carried everyone along, like Ganduje, is bound to flourish. Barrister, what do you make of this?
I think quickly my response will be that loyalty to Mr. President wouldn't be a credential for a good administrator of a political party. Interesting. But, well, I think but there are some aspects of what the writer made reference to that would appear to be reasonable. That is to say having an interpersonal quality. To say, look, it's a team player. It's not... if you like, if it is not of negative temperament, but it's a team player.
Reasonable.
It's interpersonal.
But how true?
That's the thing about most of our comments in this society. Someone who taught me some time ago, he's passed anyway, he said, look, we are more conceptual than concrete in our assertions, in our comments, especially politicians in Nigeria.
Okay.
And then we are falling in that trap. You know, we say things, this government is good, dividend of democracy. These are conceptual statements. You don't have them made concrete by some palpable reality to say, look, this is this and that is that, and you can see or you can feel or you can perceive. Okay? So it's not enough to say somebody is a good person, he has all the credentials, he has all it takes to run the political party. But then that's what you say in the opening paragraph of your statement, which usually the man taught us that then the opening paragraphs could be conceptual, just like the opening sentence in a paragraph could be conceptual. The opening paragraphs in a text could be conceptual, but you are required for someone who is going to read that you're not a writer to have an understanding and appreciate what you're writing. Make some concrete realities and experience and say, okay, this is this man. This man is going to be a good leader. He can run this party very well. That's introductory. But then go down. How is he a good administrator? Where has he shown that? And he possesses X quality. How has he demonstrated that quality? In concrete terms, he possesses this qualification. Make reference to the qualification. But again, even when you say he's loyal to Mr. President, as in how? That's a conceptual statement to simply say Gloria is loyal to me. Then you would have said so in the opening statement. If you're a good writer, then you go next to say specific, concrete instances that Gloria is loyal to me. Has she demonstrated that loyalty? Now, but again, like I said, even if in this text is reflecting that reality of how Ganduje has demonstrated loyalty to Mr. President, that isn't a reasonable quality of a good administrator of a political party. Because one of the objectives of the political party is not to show loyalty to Mr. President, it's to win elections.
Okay.
The fundamental is to coordinate the political party, ensure that at all times there is harmony, ensure that at all times that in fact even get more members.
But can you do that without being loyal?
What is about being loyalty to? Being loyal to Mr. President. What does that? Mr. President is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We still have this character in this country where someone is elected a governor, you elected a president, and then we seem not to know when to separate the governor from the political party and separate the president from the political party. It is when he goes to his political party meetings, then of course he remains a member of the political party there. And that's why you see leaders elsewhere, even when they were elected on platforms of political parties. When they assume office, they are focused on the issue of governance. So, and then that reflects in the interest of all persons.
So he doesn't need to be loyal to the president?
Not that he doesn't need, not that if he's a disloyal person, then becomes a better administrator. But what I mean is, that is not a significant quality of someone who could. If you're saying the reason you are holding someone out to be right for the position of the chairmanship of the party, to be able to drive the party to achieving its objectives, and then you think that the reason is because he's loyal to Mr. President, how will that add to achieving the objectives and the goals of the political party? No. But that's why I said one of those points I actually raised is having a good quality interpersonal relations or interpersonal. Yes, that will earn him access to even not just party members, but non-party members, to be able to bring a lot of them into the political party. And that's the strength of the political party. So you can imagine, okay, this individual has this quality, this interpersonal quality, this quality to be able to accommodate, and then, of course, administrative quality. Then you would imagine that, oh yes, this will probably add to the progress of the political party.
So what do you make of the statement? Can we say that probably this could be politically motivated, or do you think perhaps it's stemming from a place of personal interest, or perhaps maybe trying to indeed reveal, a part of Ganduje that probably the public doesn't know, or even maybe party members don't even know? What do you make of it?
It's a mix of it in the sense that I don't know the background from where this comment would even have to be made in the first instance, and especially where you imagine that the political party is having some issues of maybe some members of the political party not being satisfied with the administrative style of that chairman, or some are actually even calling for his resignation or calling for his removal. Then if you find that at that time, then some persons are beginning to position that chairman to say, oh, this is the best person we would have, he's got all the qualities, he's loyal to me. That loyalty to Mr. President is to probably attract some kind of patronage, if you like, for those who say, oh, this man is supporting Mr. President, thinking that Mr. President can influence in any way. But otherwise, like I said, it could be a mix of probably with political intention or real intention of actually letting those who do not know about the gentleman, Mr. Ganduje, to know more about him. So the intention is best known to the maker of the statement.
All right, then, got your thoughts. And finally, our last story here. The former Vice President and Waziri of Adamawa, Atiku Abubakar, has declared that he's not going to retire from politics for as long as he is alive. While answering questions on a Hausa service political program recently, he said, if anyone thinks we will sit behind and continue to watch how Nigerians are suffering and are being oppressed, then I think that person is dreaming, because I'm not tired of politics at all and will never be. You should wait and see in 2027 whether I will contest or not. We struggled for the establishment of this democratic system and will continue to ensure it is sustained. Therefore, we will not sit back and watch things going the wrong way, he said. Atiku has been in political limelight since 1989 and was one of the close associates of late General Shehu Yaradua. Barrister, at this point, do you think that Atiku, who has obviously been in political limelight for decades, do you think that he should, still be talking about relentlessness in politics, or perhaps even retiring, as it were, and paving the way for the younger generation or for other political enthusiasts to, take the way? Because, I mean, sometimes I wonder where the statement, youth or the children are the leaders of tomorrow, where it went. Because, I mean, at this point, decades, 2 decades ago, they were children. 2 to 3 decades ago, they were children. So now, where are those children who are supposed to be the leaders? Some would say. Some would say. So when do these children and youth become the leader, right? If the elders do not give them the room to do so. So do you think that Atiku's statement on not retiring from politics as long as he lives, do you think it's one to embrace, it's one to encourage, and probably one that indeed is geared towards, the growth and progress of the country, the economy, the people, alleviating the sufferings of the people? Or do you think it's probably, just for the interest of his political ambition?
Gloria, it will depend on one's perception of the concept of politics. In the sense that politics is not a profession, it's not a job to talk about retiring from. If it's in the context of being what it is, the struggle for power to be able to determine who gets what, when, and how, then it will mean that you can stay in it until the end of your life. So it may be appropriate for someone to say, I would continue to struggle to be in position of power to determine who gets what, when, and how. And again, in 2 aspects, either getting into an elective position or being on the flanks to be able to influence those decisions as to who gets what, when, and how, even if not being in an elective position, not contesting election to be voted into it. So the man, Waziri of Adamawa, former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, has just said, is his right within his right. I just said it doesn't have the intention to retire from that struggle to be in a position to determine who gets what, when, and how, except if he means something else, which could be he isn't going to stop contesting elections. Because I think majority of Nigerians would rather perceive this idea of politics as to meaning contesting elections to be elected into positions, and then to then be able to decide those instances of who gets what, when, and how. So if it is that too, then he simply has said, look, I'm not going to give in my, I think he's had the 3rd shot, desiring to become the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria after being the Vice President. It's about his 3rd time for running at different platforms at different times. So he probably is making a statement of his intention to say, I am not going to cease to want to attempt to see whether I will become the President of Nigeria someday. Okay. But again, he also could, like I said, it could mean that other aspect of continuing to be relevant and then play one role or another in ensuring that he is going to sit on that round table to take decisions as to who gets what, when, and how. And that could also be by supporting or sponsoring someone to be elected into certain positions, and then also to play another role in that regard. So politics is broad. Okay. The term, the concept politics is broad. It could transcend. The periodic elections alone is not what defines politics. Or contesting elections to be elected into positions or into offices, not just all about politics. So it could play different roles. It's within his right, and I think he has just said it. But for me, like I said, it could mean 2 things. It could mean that he does have the intention to continue to run elections.
Okay. Now, he made a statement here, says, we struggled for the establishment of this democratic system and will not sit down and,
excellent,
watch it go down the rail. Like, we'll continue to ensure that it is sustained.
That's the other part that I actually meant. And let me make a fundamental point here. Section 14 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the effect that the primary purpose of government is to enhance the welfare of citizens. But I added to continually enhance, because it won't stop. It won't stop. And then to ensure security of lives and property. So if Waziri of Adamawa, Atiku Abubakar, is saying that, and he actually played very pivotal role on the transition from military rule to current democratic civil rule. Not the role as the civil society organizations played in terms of fighting to ensure that the military juntas are actually sent to where they belong. That's the barracks. But contesting elections when the opportunity showed up. When the civil society organizations and human rights organizations actually put up the fight to ensure that the military left politics and administration in this country. What Atiku, I think I know, is that they took opportunity, took that advantage, and they played the role. So he did in the formation of the political parties, and then ensuring that that space that was created by the exit of the military was filled by democratically elected leaders. Now, what he's saying is, we would not, and I subscribe to that too, and even to the people, he's only making a statement that the Nigerian people ought to make, that we should not allow a few of these politicians, especially those that are usually elected into offices, to, if you like, distort the intention and aspiration and expectations of the Nigerian people. I mean, he's the welfare of citizens.
He's a politician as well. He's a politician as well, and we've seen various politicians come up with mouth-watering promises.
Exactly.
Right, for campaign, for their various intentions, as it were. Right, and I mean, him coming to say that we would continue to ensure.
Who is the we is referring to when he's been one of those?
So I'm driving somewhere now. We will continue now. Yeah, exactly. You mentioned one of the things. Who is this we, right? Yes. Because now he's talking about himself continuing to be in politics, right? So who is the we when politics? It's a personal race, basically. Right? Even though you have people who would galvanize support for you to emerge as, the flag bearer for that party and eventually the president, right? Now, is he also trying to say that no other person can actually ensure the sustenance of democracy in Nigeria? That is one, because I mean, if you come out to say we would continue to ensure, would ensure that democracy is sustained in Nigeria, and okay, continue to ensure, it means right now you are actually ensuring. That is what it means, right? You're ensuring, and so if this is what your ensuring means, and Nigerians seem, disgruntled about our democracy, the democracy we are practicing.
As it is at the moment.
Exactly. So what difference then would it make, this statement? I mean, how should the populace and the electorates themselves actually respond to this statement?
I think it would depend on how we perceive or see the person of Atiku Abubakar. If we see him as one of those politicians in this country that have contributed to the decline in the welfare of citizens, and then, of course, the absence of security of lives and property, then, of course, we will disown him. Now, but if we see him as one of those aspiring, and then sincerely so, that if he had got the opportunity to be the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, would have done better, then you will see people will subscribe to this. And then when he makes, when politicians make the reference to we, especially a politician of the status of Atiku Abubakar, he would be speaking with respect to himself and his structure. Of course, I put structure, someone has actually advanced the cause of structure in this part of the country, particularly in Rivers State, in such a way that it's not just him. So meaning that he has a large, if you like, followership, and then is speaking as a leader of a collective, of a group, to say, look, he and those who believe in his philosophy and then who follow him will continue to ensure that they get things right in our democracy. But I think the more like a larger opportunity Atiku has had is being the vice president to Olusegun Obasanjo.
Okay.
Meaning that he hasn't actually got the opportunity to be in a position to determine and shape the way Nigeria is run and even our affairs, apparently. When he was elected the governor of Adamawa State, before he was to assume office, Olusegun Obasanjo had picked him to be his running mate for that election in 1998. Right? And then 1999 they came into power, and then he was vice president. And we've had this issue in the constitution where the vice president actually doesn't have an executive power, just as the deputy governors. So more or less, you are like the ministers that it is the president that will assign responsibility and duties to you. And that's how it is. Like the commissioners under section 192 of the constitution, right? Where the constitution established the office of commissioners, and then the governor will appoint, right? It includes the deputy governor when it goes to section 193 for him to assign responsibilities. So the governor assigns responsibilities for the deputy governor and the commissioners under section 193. The same applies to the vice president. So maybe it's calling on Nigerians to support him, that if he becomes the president, he's going to ensure that we have better welfare.
All right then, thank you very much, Barrister Henry Ekina. It's been a small time with you.
Oh, thank
always
you.
A small time.
Always, Gloria. Thank you very much.
All right then. Okay, and many thanks to you for staying with us. We'll be here again same time tomorrow, live on Atlantic Television Network. Do you want to join us? It's been Atn Politics, and this is the march we can take. Follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Facebook and YouTube, rather,